Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Marco Gere Show on this special Thanksgiving episode I have prepared for each and every one of you. Hope everyone's having a blessed day thus far. I wanted to do a show about the history and meaning of Thanksgiving here in America and why it's really so very important that we celebrate this each and every one this year and every year. And again, Christianity has a very big basis in Thanksgiving. And I wanted to just share it with you so you can have this as a green show. The show today won't be the full hour as usual, but I want to spend some time with everybody today about the history and meaning of Thanksgiving, why it's important to you, and again, why we always should have gratitude in our lives. So this little essay I have for you is kind of going to go over the very early roots, where it is in our Bible, and again, where we are today with our Thanksgiving here in America. And why, again, that's something that's so very important. So I hope you'll find the show very interesting. Hope you'll find it fascinating. And again, I hope you'll share it with some friends so they can understand the founding of this tradition we have in America called Thanksgiving. While Thanksgiving can be celebrated by everyone in America, regardless of one's religious affiliation, its genesis and roots are founded in Christianity. As I read to you much more, it will be very well understood by those that prepared the earliest of feasts had their faith in God in mind. The word Thanksgiving is used throughout our Christian Bible in both the Old and New Testaments, fundamentally referencing an offering or gratitude to God our Father. To name a few instances of many, in the Old Testament, in Psalms chapter 100, verse 4, it says, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name." Similarly, in the New Testament, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, it states, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." For those listening, especially those of whom are religious, as Christians, it's important to give thanks for what you have and serves as a primary doctrine of our Holy Bible. Soon you'll see how this relates to what has happened in colonial America. Clearly, our Thanksgiving holiday in America reflects these Christian values. The history of Thanksgiving begins with our Bible teachings, but first, celebrations of Thanksgiving were first called harvest feasts, Thanksgiving celebrations, or days of Thanksgiving, as they often lasted more than one day. The first known Thanksgivings in America can be traced way back to the Spanish settlers in the 1500s, long before the English colonists had arrived, of which we know of today. It wouldn't be until 1610 that the Jamestown colony had its first Thanksgiving feast. After a long and devastating winter in what is today known as Williamsburg, Virginia, in 1609, the starving times resulted from low chilling temperatures and a lack of resources caused by major famine among the original 490 settlers, with only 60 surviving. However, in the spring of 1610, more English ships arrived in the Plymouth harbor with food, resources, additional settlers, and along with more leadership and support to bolster this community. A very much needed celebration for good fortunes was necessary. Survival, the rain, food, and what have you. And they celebrated what they had as a religious holiday called the Days of Thanksgiving. Now, much like the early settlers of Virginia, the Plymouth colony, these were Puritan and Anglican settlers alike and were supposed to join the Jamestown colony. A merchant named Thomas Weston was able to receive a patent from the Virginia Company of London, and in so, he rented the Mayflower to come to the New World. Unfortunately, due to inclement and stormy weather conditions, the Mayflower lost its bearings and instead landed in Massachusetts in 1620 in what is now Cape Cod, not Virginia, as they had planned. Arriving in the New World in December, with winter setting in already, They did not have the ability to plant crops or gather any type of berries in the nearby forests. And after an arduous journey, limited with resources, according to the World History Encyclopedia, they ended up stealing caches of corn from the Native Americans, raiding graves where food was left as offerings, and did hunting expeditions as well. Evidently, these pilgrims suffered a difficult winter, with nearly half of the colonists dying from disease. The inclement and frigid weather conditions and hunger set in as well. But then it was the Wampanoag tribe, whose ancestors lived in the region for thousands of years, showed the pilgrims how to fish, use fish as fertilizer, how to hunt, where to hunt, and of course, how to harvest crops like corn, and how to gather. As fate would have it, in March of 1621, a Native American named Samoset, that learned English from English fishermen along the Gulf of Maine previously, came in contact and communicated with the Pilgrims of Plymouth on behalf of the nearby Wampanoag Confederacy. A man named Squanto, at the behest of the chief Massasoit, commanded him to stay with the Pilgrims and then show them how to cultivate the land and survive in their new settlements. The Wampanoags themselves suffered epidemics recently, likely from trading with the Europeans, and of course the rats that came along during these voyages possibly contaminated the water supply. While debated, it is accepted that the bacterial infection like leptospiriosis contributed to wiping out roughly 90% of this tribe. We saw this in many of the interactions between the indigenous populations with the Europeans early on in America. Diseases like smallpox, yellow fever, plague, chickenpox, trichinosis, and other ailments could have led to the Great Dying, as they called it, in which tens of thousands were killed, and they were left weakened, both politically and militarily, between the times of 1615 and 1619. Through learning from Squanto, a bountiful harvest of crops, and through hunting and fishing in plentiful areas, much food was collected, and the Pilgrims decided to have a 3-day celebration. According to George F. Willison's book, Saints and Strangers, 1945, the New England feast likely served foods such as venison, duck, clams, shellfish, eels, white bread, cornbread, leeks, watercress, wild plums, dried berries, and wines alike. What was the first Thanksgiving like? Now, I can't say it any better than Willison has written, as he later writes, and I will quote him by saying the following. He begins by saying, "They began now, in the fall of 1621, to gather in small harvests they had. They had to prepare their houses for winter. Being well recovered in health, in strength, and plentifully provisioned, for while some had been thus employed in the affairs away from home, others were occupied in fishing for cod, bass, and other fish, of which they caught a good quantity, every family having their portion. All summer there was no want, and now, as winter approached, wildfowl began to arrive, and they got abundance of wild turkeys besides venison. Harvest time had come now, and then instead of famine, God gave them plenty, and the face of things was changed to rejoicing of the hearts of many, for which they blessed God. And the effect of their peculiar planting was seen as well, for they had one way or another pretty well to bring the year about, and some of them had the abler sort of most industrious had to spare, and sell to others. In fact, no general want or famine has been amongst them since to this day. A second harvest is mentioned by Bradford as it taking place in 1623, but there is no mention made of any other. He documents from Mort's Relation and others from Winslow's works, called Good News from New England, published in 1624, helped encourage the migration of more English to North America. Between 1630 and 1636, over 20,000 English colonists later arrived, and was become now known as the Great Migration. The treaty signed between Carver and Massasoit in 1621 was honored from 1621 until after Massasoit's death in 1661. But those drawn up between colonists and Native Americans afterwards were not. Native Americans were either driven from their lands or sold their lands to the colonists, willingly or not, and then moved further inland. So this is the truth of the earliest Thanksgiving in America. While the story is not just of two coexisting groups of peoples, of many smiles and happiness, it gives us an imagery in time of what it was like for the new settlers in America, and those that had been here living for thousands of years coming together in a celebration. Let's bring us up to the early founding of our nation and how Thanksgiving played a role there. In 1777, during the American Revolution, George Washington of the Continental Army declared December 18th, 1777, a national holiday, a national day of Thanksgiving, in response to the victory at the Battle of Saratoga. Later, after becoming president in 1789, George Washington again creates a presidential Thanksgiving proclamation in accordance to thank God for the new Constitution and the founding of this nation. While not a national commemoration, it sets the works for later national practices of Thanksgiving. Finally, in 1863, when Abraham Lincoln became president, he issued a proclamation, and in it stating that the last Thursday in the month of November would become a national holiday of Thanksgiving for the entire nation. Now, he did this in the middle of the American Civil War to bring unity, to bring healing, gratitude during this national crisis. I myself hold a different perspective of the American Civil War than the conventional history that we have been taught throughout our lives, so I won't expound about the topic. But I would like to say that, like Washington before him, celebrating the victory at the Battle of Saratoga, it was Lincoln that made Thanksgiving a permanent holiday in America after the great victory at the Battle of Shiloh. So for the past 162 years, America has been celebrating Thanksgiving, and its meaning is very profound. It's very important, this holiday, for many reasons other than the ones which I've outlined to you by those who started these early celebrations. One other important aspect to mention is the concept of scalar waves. Now, believe it or not, when we pray or when we manifest thoughts in our minds and in our hearts, our bodies connect to an energy field. And again, this is why the power of prayer is so important. And again, the power of giving thanks each and every day is so powerful. Much like the power of prayer, and of course the communication with God. Now, whether it be thanks to God, or to rainfall, or to food, or shelter, safety, land, community, respect to one another, healing, gratitude, family, careers, good health, financial stability, for our nation, for our freedoms, or for clothes on our backs, we all have something to be thankful for on Thanksgiving Day. That's something truly divine, as each and every American can take time to recognize the good things and even overcoming hardships or disparities that each and every one of us is afflicted by. On this Thanksgiving, try to reflect on positive aspects of your life from this year. It's all unique to you individually, as we are grateful and cognizant of different experiences and events that happen in our lives. But think about what makes you grateful, not just for accessories or monetary gains you have, while that's fine, but also be aware of the people in your life. I wake up every day and think about the positives and negatives, but I'm grateful for these experiences, grateful to God. And it's all because it makes me a much better and stronger person. Perhaps you can relate. Nothing in this life is guaranteed. No one owes you a thing. We sometimes get used to our ways of life and the amenities in America and take it for granted. It's a very easy thing to do. I think everybody could agree with me. We all have busy lives, and we don't always reflect upon the wonderful things we have in this country, the wonderful things that we have been given. But we live in the freest nation that the earth has ever seen and has ever existed in civilization. That is a fact. A nation based in Christian values and work ethic that has allowed so many of us to thrive since our founding is not something that should be taken lightly. And again, that's why we should always understand our founding here in America. You have the ability to choose freely your own destiny, and that's not something true of every other nation on earth, even today in 2025. We are free to follow our religious beliefs without a constant fear of reprisal or persecution, and you might have a strong community that's involved at your parish or church that's beneficial to you in your life and, of course, your family's life. What else can you be thankful for on Thanksgiving? It could be the luxury to go into a grocery store, and there are several 100,000 items to choose from every single day. At the flick of a switch, you are able to be provided with light, electricity, for heating, cooling, entertainment, and or cleaning. The ability to go to stores and buy really anything you'd like, from clothing to electronics to furniture, or whatever you really want. Being able to drive freely from point A to point B, to fly from place to place all over this world, or living in a safe neighborhood. Maybe someone was good to you, or helped you out because they value your friendship or your companionship. It could be someone you know that was sick and got better. Maybe even a text from a friend you haven't heard from in a while, just to say hello and see how you're doing. How about the fact you live in a nation that hasn't been invaded in over 200 years and is relatively stable? Again, this isn't true of much of the nations around the world today that live in constant war, or where factions terrorize the local populations ad nauseum. The fact that we have a volunteer army, of some of which the best and bravest service men and women defend our nation from evildoers. Perhaps someone volunteered their free time just to give you a lift somewhere, or helped you fix something, or people that just want to spend time with you, and again value your company and invite you out. It could be something so simple, like somebody just waved to you at a stoplight, or somebody interacted with you just to be kind to you. These small acts of kindness are huge, and again, we shouldn't take these things for granted. You can be thankful just for who you are, and for your ancestors before you, and take comfort in the fact that you know where you came from, and that you, that are here today, come from many generations of your mother's and your father's ethnic lineage, and take pride in that. You are unique in your own way. I believe in God's own image and likeness you were created, just as I was, but there's nobody else just exactly like you. And that is something that's truly special. Be thankful for who you are. What you can be grateful for is really endless. And again, nothing is perfect in life. We don't live in a utopia. We aren't perfect. No country or person is. But if you get up every day, each and every day with a purpose, and again with the ability and desire to do better today than you did yesterday, and you're living in the moment, if you're doing all that, you're doing all right in my book, I just have to say. And of course, doing well by others. We were given a great and unique gift to be in the United States and to live here. It didn't come cheap or free, and it was met with much sacrifice, looking back on the founding. But our ancestors before us helped contribute to this great country, especially our founding fathers, and those brave men that fought in the American Revolution, or any man or woman that has served this country, many of which we don't even know their names, but we should never take them for granted. We also can think about our ancestors that made the very dangerous journey, many of them across the Atlantic, to come here, in a world in which they never lived before. In a strange new world, they built communities. They built foundations. And in so, you inherited the hard work of which they went through and the struggles they went through for freedom, largely freedom of religion. So as the host of this show, I can tell you that I'm grateful for each and every one of you that listens to the show regularly. I appreciate those of you that share the show and, of course, encourage others to listen and learn alike. But I want to say thank you to those of you that keep doing that. Again, it means a lot to me as well. And it doesn't go unnoticed, too. Help people out when you can. Again, the small acts of kindness go a long way in this world, and you'll be very well rewarded for that. So now, as I wrap up this short segment, I just wanted to say that I hope everyone, regardless of when you are listening, to have a safe, relaxed, and blessed Thanksgiving today. Whether with loved ones or not, try to think about showing some gratitude for what you have. It will be very beneficial for you to show appreciation for what you do have in this world. I, of course, am always grateful to God for the gifts of which He's given me, and in showing thanks and appreciation, I am also all the more blessed for it. Maybe some of you aren't religious, or maybe perhaps you don't believe in God, but you can always wake up every morning and be grateful for what you have in this life. Nothing can stop you from doing that. So, my friends, my loyal listeners, thank you again for tuning into this episode. I hope you learned quite a bit about the founding of Thanksgiving in this country and where it's rooted in the Bible, of course. And I think we all can be grateful for all of that. So again, thank you again for tuning into this episode. I know this wasn't a long episode, But again, I wanted to share this with you because most people don't understand the meaning or history behind many of our religions. So I hope you grasp something from that today. Perhaps something was interesting. Maybe you'd like to learn more about it. And it's always a good thing to do that when you can. So, as I conclude today's show, I just want to let everybody know that I will be here on Friday with more news topics tomorrow to keep you updated on what's going on in the world. And again, there's no shortage of that. And if you're still lethargic tomorrow, you can always catch up on many of the other episodes maybe you missed in the past. And be sure to share this one with friends and family alike. So again, my thanks to you as an American, as a patriot, as a God-fearing Christian. I just want to say you guys always mean a lot to me. My family and friends always mean a lot to me. And I hope again today you'll reflect upon what you have in your life. And again, I think we in America always understand we live very, very well compared to the grand scheme of civilization, both past and present today. So, my friends, I hope you learned a lot about what Thanksgiving is, about the importance, again, of giving thanks, and really a daily affirmation that can really greatly benefit us as Americans. You can always show thanks, I think. Have a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I hope I'll see you here tomorrow or whenever I see you again on the next Marco Geray Show. Until then, be good, stay safe, enjoy your Thanksgiving with family or friends. And until next time, just remember, you're blessed to live in this nation. Hope you have a great rest of your day, folks. God bless each and every one of you. See you tomorrow.